Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission in the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be starting our next season about Halo 3 ODST on the next episode. That's right, we took a vote, and we're going to make you wait to finish the fight. This episode, we're debriefing Halo 2, the whole thing, and talking about how it stacks up against the previous games. We played 3 now, so we'll be kind of talking about, comparisons on the gameplay, weapons, all that fun stuff. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello again, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
#blur for life.
That's right. So far, we played 3 games, and I'm going to try to recap these 3 games in a couple sentences. I had a hard time with Halo 2, as you'll find, because there's a lot in that game. But the story so far is in Halo Reach, we suited up as Noble 6 and were deployed with a team of Spartans to do everything we could to repel the invading Covenant forces before having to admit defeat and help the Pillar of Autumn escape from the planet's glassing. That took place from July 24th, 2552 to August 30th, 2552, a little over a month. In Halo CE, we dropped out of slip space and explored the mysterious Halo ring that Cortana randomly brought us to. As Master Chief, we discovered the Flood and realized we had to destroy the ring in order to save all life on the galaxy. That took place from September 19th, 2552 to September 22nd, 2552, so just a couple days. Now, Halo 2, this is the hard one because there's so much. The mystery of the Covenant and their diabolical motivations are finally revealed. Playing as both the Arbiter and Master Chief, we defend Earth, discover another Halo, fight more Flood, witness the downfall of the Covenant, chat with the Gravemind, team up with a betrayed Sangheili race to stop Tartarus from firing the Delta Halo, and then chase after the Prophet of Truth to finish the fight on Earth. Whoa.
Just a couple things to go over.
I mean, that was the best I could do to distill everything down, because there's
pretty good job.
Much. So the date of the game, October 20th, 2552 to November 3rd, 2552, but then also flash forwarding to November 17th, 2552. So we go in and out of slip space in there, do a bunch of stuff on the Delta Halo and High Charity, and then we go back to Earth. So a little under a month for Halo 2 total. Then we also have that Jameson Locke cutscene at the very beginning of Halo 2 Anniversary, which is in the far future of the timeline. We'll get there eventually.
Also, no one cares about Locke.
We'll get there. We'll get there. So lots happening in Halo 2. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. We've been playing this game for a long time because, as we mentioned in the previous episode, we play one mission a month. Or one mission a month,
yeah.
Yeah, that would
5 years later, we're finally done with Halo 2. Oh my god.
So it feels to us like we've been playing this game for a long time. Hopefully you played it through faster than that, than we did. But the other conversation that we've had is, when we recapped Halo Reach, we just kind of recapped that game. When we recapped Halo CE, we kind of had a comparison point with Halo Reach and Halo CE. Now playing Halo 2, it's going to be hard for any of us to say, like, Halo 2 is worse than those other games. So we're going to kind of keep the conversation just around Halo 2 and talk about kind of all our categories, gameplay, weapons, vehicles, enemies, level design, lore, and then we also talk about characters here in this section. Then we'll go back and there's like some other some videos and things like that you can watch, so we'll just chat about those, kind of about the making of the game originally, the remaking of the game for the anniversary, and then there was a Halo 2 demo that was kind of revealed. It was played way back in 2004, but that recently on Halo's Mixer channel. I don't know if they'll save it for very long or not. Hopefully they do, but they actually play that E3 demo. We'll try to get through this quickly, but we did want to at least kind of give you our overall thoughts now that we've played Halo 2. What we thought about all these individual kind of categories. Gameplay wise, we played the 3 games now. Gameplay, this game, by the end of this game, I feel good. I don't really have that many complaints gameplay wise. It just feels good. We mentioned in the last episode, like I think the Banshee acts a little bit differently, and like the vehicles act a little bit differently, and there's differences, but Halo 2 itself feels really solid, rock solid. David, how do you feel about gameplay from this game?
From this game, well, originally it was such a jarring change from CE to 2, and I think you can find that when you play MCC Collection and you go from one game to the other. You do like any kind of mix of playlists and you're chopping and changing. There are differences in the gameplay. The stuff that I loved in the first game didn't come across to the second game. So like speaking of weapons, let's say like the pistol and the shotgun were totally different. And that did give me kind of sour taste in my mouth at the time. But then the battle rifle is so amazing. Dual wielding was great fun, even if a little bit kind of unusual in how it worked. But I did really enjoy it.
It takes a while to get used to like the sounds.
Yeah, that too. Like, I mean, and even just like how Chief throws grenades is different. So like you have to get used to it. The kind of like how it works. But gameplay wise, like I loved boarding. I loved like using all the vehicles. I mean, it is just an explosion of mechanics, and like it's just a bigger game. So absolutely, I loved it. From a gameplay perspective, with my own personal things that I dislike. Yeah. But the game itself, I mean, I can't fault it really.
What do you think about the differences gameplay-wise, Krista?
So, as we've been talking about, we only play 1 mission a week. So, in that time, we're playing a bunch of different games, all, new titles and stuff like that. And honestly, going back to Halo 2, the only, big kind of outdated feature Halo 2 has is the zooming. Because now it's always on the trigger instead of through the stick.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's good.
But other than that, the shooting is really, really solid. I'm playing Red Dead, I'm playing Overwatch, all this kind of stuff. And it still feels really natural to go from that to Halo 2 other than the zooming thing. So, I mean, it really, it doesn't feel super outdated. Like, it feels a little dated, but it doesn't feel ancient, because, Halo 2 is kind of ancient now. But it really holds up with other shooters and stuff like that, especially when you're just going through the campaign and hanging out and having fun. It still feels really, really good, and the gameplay's still really solid, and in Halo CE, you kind of get the feeling that I want to do that, but I can't. That's what I kind of feel in Halo CE a couple times, but I feel like
I get you.
I feel like Halo 2 kind of gets over that a little bit more. Like, of course, some things like grappling and stuff like that isn't available in Halo 2, but other than that, like, it holds up really, really well, and you kind of don't feel super limited, even though it's a really old game.
Yeah, we talked about it in the previous comparison, whereas the shooting is rock solid, and again, we're playing it in chronological order, not in release order, so it's different. Like, we played the super polished game in Halo Reach, and then went back to Halo CE, and felt a little bit of the, I don't know, growing pains is not the right word, but just it wasn't as polished. It's still great gameplay, so we mentioned that gameplay started at a really high level, and they've just added a bunch of things and tweaked a bunch of things, and to your point, Krista, is like the things that you wanted to be able to do, now we can do. And those are the things now really moving forward for the most part. There's some more enhancements to look forward to, but for the most part, this is how you play Halo now, is with these gameplay mechanics. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to comment on anything beyond that, other than it's a little bit, it's different, but it feels good when you're playing Halo 2. It feels like you can do everything you want to do, and the controls are tight, shooting's tight, it's all good. So from my perspective, I didn't feel like I was wanting to play one of the other games when I was playing Halo 2. I felt like it's like, okay, this is great. I'm having a lot of fun. It all works. So that's kind of the higher level question. But now we kind of get into the specifics of the weapons from the game and the vehicles and all the other stuff, kind of the individual elements of the games. Weapon-wise, I miss my AR. I don't know why I like that weapon so much, but it wasn't until partway through the game I was like, oh, I'm not getting that, am I? You don't get the AR at all in Halo 2. You get a bunch of other stuff, but you don't get that assault rifle that you grew to love. Well, I guess I grew to love in Halo CE, but you get that in Halo Reach. ARs in Halo Reach too. What were your thoughts about the weapons, David, in Halo 2? I guess you can. I mean, you know, this is gonna be hard to compare all the games, but just your thoughts on the weapons from what we've played so far.
For Halo 2, well, I already said, obviously, the Magnum is a disgrace. That kind of killed it, you know, that pistol, because the pistol in Halo 1 is such a huge, iconic weapon, and then going into Halo 2 when it's just not, you can't even say it's nerfed because it's just not there. I actually, one of those things that I know isn't competitive or good, like, I love dual wielding. I like doing it in the campaign. I like mixing and maxing different weapons, and that's something I really grew to enjoy and missed in the later games when they removed that mechanic. The battle rifle is amazing. I do love that weapon.
Yeah.
I find it hard to not pick it up. The sniper rifle is pretty much the same. I'm still crap with it, so I tend to ignore it unless I actually need it for a specific thing. The Covenant weapons are okay in terms of how they work and stuff. I'm never mad for them. All of them. The brute plasma is kind of cool, and I know I like dual wielding them. Does give you kind of interesting combinations. Dual wielding needlers is hella fun, and so much else. The carbine is pretty badass. I suppose it's just like the alien battle rifle, but that is pretty cool and very useful in many situations. In terms of weapons, it's cool. They're good weapons in Halo 2, and obviously the weapons they brought in and the way they worked got totally like defines the game as a series then, and they pretty much iterated on those as they went in, and they did eventually fix the pistol. So I mean, I'm okay with it. But Chris, that's kind of how I feel.
Chris, are you big on Oh, go ahead.
The sword.
Oh,
hell yeah, the sword.
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest one weapon for Halo 2 is allowing you to use the sword. So obviously that's awesome.
Yeah, we use the sword in CE, or in Reach, but not in CE.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the first time we get to use it.
In release order.
In release order. It's the first time you've ever picked up a sword as Halo 2.
Yeah, and that was a big thing. We don't really cover off on multiplayer stuff, but was the sword a big deal in Halo 2 from a multiplayer standpoint?
Oh my god, like
the lunge is crazy. People did crazy
the lunge is crazy
stuff.
We used to because in my circle of friends, we viewed it as OP. We would play multiplayer matches where we would have our house rule: you can't pick up the sword. Do you know what I mean? Because if you have the sword, you win. Do you know what I mean? Because back then, we didn't have, I wasn't that good at multiplayer, but I think that's not a lie. I feel like I peaked in Halo 2, and I've never been as good since. But in terms of circling my friends, they couldn't do anything if I had a sword. Do you know what I mean? They just weren't able to do anything more, and so it was very much a case of just don't use it.
Yeah. Chris, are you a dual wielder?
I dual wield when I'm playing Halo 2 for fun.
Okay.
And I think
not in the mission, during the series, you didn't do it much?
If I'm playing anything above normal, I won't do it, but when you're playing normal, you're just playing Halo 2, you're hanging out, you're having fun. That's kind of what Mission Debrief has been about. It's not about being super competitive or anything, but yeah, I did find myself picking up dual wielding during this game because it's a lot of fun. The mechanics are pretty good. It's just kind of fun to just pick up stuff and just destroy with it was a great mechanic added to the series, and like David said, some of the older titles don't have it anymore because Master Chief just lost the ability to carry two weapons at once.
Right.
But yeah.
But it wasn't Halo 2. I mean, Halo 2 makes sense to dual. Right?
Halo 2, 2 weapons, 2 Halos.
Right.
Two main characters.
Yeah.
Lots of dualities, I guess. The weapons for me, there's just so much, so it's hard. I like the carbine the most. That's kind of my favorite in general from a Covenant standpoint. But getting used to the BR after a while, it feels good. There's so much variety, and you can really kind of take your own path. I think we kept during the missions. I would regularly ask, okay, what are you guys playing with at this point? What are you playing with at this point? And we usually had our own kind of set. Sometimes we have some overlap, but you can. That's the cool thing about the game is you can kind of play any way you want to with the dual wielding and all the different weapons. Vehicle-wise, is kind of the next one I wanted to talk to. They made a bunch of changes in Halo 2 from a vehicle standpoint. You can get in the Wraith. You couldn't get in the Wraith before in Halo CE. You can do the boarding action is a big deal. That mysterious specter is a thing. So there's lots of changes from a vehicle standpoint, and one of the things I probably mentioned before, but one of the reasons that I love Halo 2 so much is that, I like playing first-person shooters, but Halo, it makes those those vehicles such a big part of the gameplay. Whereas other shooters, a lot of times it's just kind of, you're on rails and you're just, trying, it's like a shooting gallery type situation, but the levels are so open and they account for vehicles.
Yeah, and pulling back into third person is so huge.
Yeah.
To why they work the way that how they work so well.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. What's your vehicle of choice in Halo 2, David?
In Halo 2, well, in this playthrough, I think the one I kind of used the most and kind of enjoyed was probably the Banshee. I think so, in terms of definitely from the Covenant perspective. I mean, the Ghost has a cool boost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Spectres, I don't like it as much at all, as much as I like the Warthog.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, the Scorpion tank, you don't get it that much in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's super slow. It's way slower than it was before. So I'm probably gonna say Banshee, just from my point of view, because they added it. They gave it the Banshee bomb. You could do the swirly. You could do acrobatics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
Chris,
from a vehicle perspective.
Krista, what's your favorite?
Land vehicle, Wraith, sky vehicle. Well, there's only one choice, and that's the Banshee.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think the nice thing, because Halo 1 did have some vehicles, and Halo Reach, of course, had some vehicles, but I feel like Halo 2 has more levels where they're available to you, which was really, really nice. Kind of was a little more incorporated in the gameplay.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
In one mission, you get to do a Wraith and a Banshee. That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all the Flood missions have a bunch of vehicles in them, and you can kind of just do whatever you want with them, pick whatever vehicle you want, commandeer whatever vehicle you want, which is really cool. And I feel like Halo Reach and Halo 1 kind of put you in one vehicle and wanted you to kind of stay on it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Halo 2, you kind of get to pick and choose a little more.
Yep.
Oh, totally forgot the Gauss Hog. It's awesome.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, the Gauss Hog.
I love the Gauss Hog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just one. Is it one or is it another spot besides? Was it Metropolis?
It may be in
maybe?
I think you can get it in the Flood mission. I think it's in there somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I think the Flood have it, and you can
yeah.
commandeer it from them, but just explode them.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think if I'm wanting to play the way that I want to play, I always hop on a Ghost because it just feels the best to me. So I'd probably say Ghost is my favorite. But if I'm looking to, branch out, which I didn't really until playing the Wraith at the very end of the game, I really enjoyed that and wish I would have tried driving that a little more often. The Covenant vehicles are just so much fun to get into. Enemy-wise, there's lots of different enemies here. So this is the first time in release order that we're fighting the brutes. And drones are a new thing as well in release order. We played them both against both of them in Reach, Halo Reach. But release order, those two are new. I feel like the enemy AI, it didn't feel that much smarter to me than in CE. It felt similar. But having the brutes in there added that bullet sponge element that's kind of always there with elites, but it felt more so. Whereas you didn't have that shield break moment where you're like, okay, now they're vulnerable. It was more just, okay, I just got to throw a bunch of bullets into this guy, take him down.
Well, and even Reach had the mechanic where you could shoot the helmet off the brute and then get a headshot on him.
Yes.
But in Halo 2, it's just put as many bullets as physically possible into it, and it will eventually die.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that in Halo 2. You can pop a helmet and get a headshot. It's a bit more difficult,
Yeah, it's
but
harder
it's
to
doable.
do. I think the hitbox is harder or something like that.
So let's do this
So-
for enemies. Let's talk about our least favorite enemy, because that's usually the one that's most annoying.
Boogers.
Krista, which is the least favorite enemy in Halo 2?
Buggers.
I think maybe buggers, but if you're listening to this and you're listening to all these shows in sequence, the one enemy we've probably bitched about the most is Jackal Snipers. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Jackal Snipers.
That's true
Yeah.
too. That one's really bad.
They're not that hard to kill themselves. They're just a pain in the ass because they always snipe you before you can see them.
Because they can one-shot you on the higher difficulties.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, that's a good point. I ended up hating killing the brutes just because they were such bullet sponges, and that charge, the brute charge, is just super. Especially in that
when they
last,
berserk.
yeah, the berserker. In that last area before you meet Tartarus, that was kind of, I mean, it just brought back bad memories of that room, playing on the higher levels and legendary. So yeah, buggers and brutes are, the most annoying and probably the toughest for me. David, did you have one?
Yeah, Jackal Sniper.
Oh, that's
100%.
Okay. Let's see here. What else do we want to talk about? Level design. That's a bigger question. There's more to it. There's a lot more variety, I feel, in Halo 2. So when we're comparing, I think I mentioned in the last wrap up is that Halo CE or Halo Reach was trying very hard to mimic the experience from the previous games. I think they did a good job, but I don't know. It feels like the true, like the better, the more real, the more I don't know what word I'm looking for, but the way that Halo 2 pulled it off was, I guess, more authentic is what the word I'm looking for. I really like the level design in Halo 2 across all the missions. There's lots to do, lots of different ways to do it. So Halo 2 feels really good from that standpoint. David, how do you feel about level design? I know your favorite CE. Can you compare those two?
Well, yeah, CE has a lot of repeats, and I feel
Yeah.
this game did better in giving you a variety of that in terms of locations and where you go. That even when you're on a Halo, it's not exactly like previous Halos, and I don't know, going to High Charity was awesome, fighting on Earth was awesome, fighting in Delta Halo was awesome. You know what I mean? They have great locations, and I think the skyboxes again are amazing. I mean, like, what's not to love about Halo 2's campaign design? You know, it is pretty cool. There are missions in there that we don't like. There's always one mission that you hate, like, do you know what I mean? But it's a good, well-designed game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue against that. I mean, I'm sure you can nitpick away at certain things. Krista, how are you on level design?
Oh, the level design's fantastic. I think that every mission is very unique in its own way. I think every mission kind of gives you a sense of depth in the world and kind of does a very good job at kind of immersing you and making these set pieces that are contextually fantastic to the story that's going on, and you get to go to cool places, see cool things, and just kind of you're able to lose yourself because of how, like, the skyboxes are really nice. Just everything around you is really lush and fun, and that's kind of part of the remastering because, you know, the remaster does help. But if you remember CE, a lot of the spaces were just kind of wide open and felt a little more empty, but I think this one's a lot more populated.
Yeah, definitely. The next question I'm going to ask is about lore, and I just want to make a note, I guess, because, you know, we're obviously focused on the lore, and so that's what we're most interested in, but because the level design is the way it is, it's so interesting and so good. You know, some games, you know, you play for the story, like an adventure game, you play just for the story, and the gameplay mechanics are okay. Other games you play because, you know, the game is awesome. You know, it's just fun to play and to, you know, to figure out the puzzles or shoot the bad guys or whatever it is, whereas the story's not really there. This game crams a lot into both of those areas, and it's the combination of those two things that really makes this game great. I just kind of want to mention that because there are so many games that are just kind of one or the other, whereas this is both. But lore-wise, it's hard to compare against the other two because they did such an amazing job, and this Halo 2, this is kind of the platform moving forward of what Halo the franchise is going to be. David, Halo CE is it's the core of what Halo is. Can you kind of expand upon, like, you know, when you look back at your Halo experience, you know, comparing Halo 2 to Halo CE? Well, we just won't talk about Reach right now, but what is it about Halo 2 that sets it apart from Halo CE? And again, knowing that you're more of a CE guy.
Yeah, but even like the overall game that I love is CE, just from everything. But it is a simple story, and they
But that's
took
not a
what
bad
was,
thing, though. I don't think.
No, I don't say that in a bad way either. It is just an easier to follow story. But there were still you still had lots of questions, and there were still lots in there for as simple as it was. Like, we're still dissecting, and dialogue that happens, and transcripts are very interesting to read just for what's happening in a mission that you may not be aware of. So Halo 2 took that and just fucking exploded the lore into us, from the terms of like the Covenant, just the humanity, what it was like. We got to go to Earth, we got to see all of these different systems and different ranks and different kind of infrastructures, and it was unbelievable. Like, it was just such a huge lore dump, which there was that game. And I was watching one of the documentaries, kind of Making a Legend, which is on the Halo channel, but you can get to it via the menu and look at the videos when you go into the menu of Master Chief Collection, and the little extras in there, it'll bring you to it anyway with like one click. So it's like they said, I can't remember, Max Huberman had said that in terms of the story of Halo 2, up to a third of it, maybe even a half, was cut. So when you think about what we got, how much was taken from it,
right?
Do you know what I mean? It was just so jam-packed. There was just so much there. There was just the formation of the Covenant. Everything is in there. It's awesome. And then you had the terminals on top of that, telling you loads more. I mean, there's just so much there, so much, and it was awesome. I loved every second of learning as much as possible. As much as at the time I disliked playing as Arbiter, I did love the missions, the story they were giving you, and seeing how the races interacted with each other. Seeing the schism happen was awesome. Do you know what I mean? It was just full of great moments that, like, even right now, there are so many books and comics and extended Halo lore that take place around that time period, even now. Do you know what I mean? And we're like, the current year is 2559, and we're still talking about 2552. Do you know what I mean? It's still huge. There's just so much there. And there's still so much we don't know, and things that like had happened in different places of what it was like. And it's just huge, man. It's cool. Halo 2 takes the cake in that kind of category.
And I think that's a testament to, I mean, obviously Bungie, but largely Joseph Staten. Watching kind of the making of Halo 2 originally, and you know, the recent videos, a lot of it is like he was the writer. Granted, there's lots of contributors, but I think just it feels like a lot of this is his brainchild. I'm sure he collaborated with other people, Jason Jones and other team members, but they got the depth, I think, is really what he loves, clearly, and his efforts and like kind of the roadmap, I guess, of the universe was a lot of it his brainchild, and he crammed as much as he could. You know, I'm sure a lot of those painful moments when they were cutting, I'm sure that destroyed him along the way, because he wrote a lot of this, you know, to kind of chop away a lot of interesting things that he wanted to cram into this game. But my appreciation for him has grown, I guess, as I've gotten deeper and deeper into understanding the lore and just the franchise that is Halo. Krista, anything to add?
I think you guys summarized it up pretty well, but I mean, this game gives you the base knowledge that you take on for the rest of the Halo games. Mm-hmm. Like, it gives you the tools to help you understand everything else that's going to happen in all the other Halo games. I think CE did a okay job at kind of setting up the universe, but I think Halo 2 is the thing that really solidifies it as a space epic, which is kind of what it is. It's just this epic story about all these different races and stuff trying to figure out what they're gonna do.
Yep.
And I think this is the game that really solidifies it as this crazy universe with all this crazy stuff going on.
Yeah, Halo CE kind of planted the seeds for what could have been something cool, and then Halo 2 just blew it out. Completely blew it out. and that's why we're here today. That's why we're, we have a community on Facebook and all, and that's why there's the podcast Evolved and lots of other podcasts that are out there. We're still talking about Halo because there is so much, and we don't talk about I had an idea. What was the game? I forget. Quantum Break. I wanted to do a podcast about Quantum Break, and there's just not much to it, and it's not going to be an extended universe in that, but you can't do a one-off video game isn't gonna have the type of legs that what this franchise has really established, and especially in Halo 2. So that kind of plays into characters. Maybe we just talk about our favorite characters here in Halo 2, who we thought, I don't know, just what we thought was the best from a writing standpoint, or who we thought was the most fun. David, who did you like the best in Halo 2? Let's just pick. Maybe you can pick up to 2, but let's try to focus on 1 if you can.
I will say Sergeant Johnson.
Yeah.
Just because he went from nothing in Halo CE, where he wasn't a real character, he was just a character model, to an actual human character. Because obviously the huge response from Halo CE warranted this man get his own character, get his own catchphrases. He's just amazing. He's awesome. He's so much fun. Halo is always great in terms of a very serious game with a great sense of comedy to it. Even with the grunts are always funny. Do you know what I mean? There's always elements of that. And Johnson just is he kind of commands the room, I think, when he's in it, in terms of the game. Do you know what I mean? You're watching this cutscene with Johnson, you're kind of saying, what's Johnson going to do? Do you know what I mean? It's interesting to see his input and to see that built. I mean, we recently read a book that had Sergeant Johnson in it again, and it was always loved reading, seeing his version of events through his kind of eyes, and it's great to see that him fleshed out as a character like that. And I just loved him in Halo 2. I thought he was awesome. Multiples.
Isn't he in his 60s in the current lore too? At this point, he's getting up there in age, but he's super spry and witty, and you just love him. He's in the middle of it. He's in the middle of it all.
I can't be sure of his age, but 60? No way, he can't be 60.
He old.
I'll let you twist.
He's old.
I'll let you twist my arm and say that he's 50. But I need to look that up.
60s. But anyway, Krista, who's your favorite?
I think the best new character in Halo 2 was the Gravemind. I think it's probably one of the more interesting characters. I think he really solidified the Flood as a huge threat and kind of gave you a better understanding of what the Flood is and what they do, and kind of makes them a bit more terrifying because there is this all-encompassing mind controlling them. And I think you don't really get the scope of Gravemind until you kind of look into it a little more, but it definitely plants the seed of wanting to discover.
I like that. God, now I want to say more than one because I have a lot.
You can't. We all said one.
Ugh. So I'm gonna go. So we'll do one more, and then maybe we'll do it afterwards and talk about other characters. But I'll say Truth. I think they really do a good job of establishing him as the head of the Covenant, and I love his voice acting. His voice acting is amazing, and he is persistent throughout the entire game. Whereas some players kind of fall off here and there. He has kind of the biggest part throughout, and we're at the very end of the game. We see him at the very beginning of the game, and we see him at the very end of the game. He's there the entire time. He's that bad guy. He's got the crosshairs on him. Essentially, we need to stop Truth. He's the evil guy. So I really like what they did with him. They made him complex enough to question. He's not just doing bad just to do bad things. He has reasons, and they flesh that out from other media as well. But the Truth himself is really interesting to me. Any other characters you want to mention?
All of the other prophets are really interesting, and just learning about the hierarchs, and how the Covenant kind of worked before Halo 2, because everything kind of changes during Halo 2, but you kind of get a insight into how the Covenant was before the schism and all the prophets died.
Yeah.
Now see that big controversial character that was the Arbiter.
Sure.
So obviously he came out of nowhere, became huge. I thought his background was actually excellent. again, I do concede the fact that I was not happy playing as him back in the day. I do appreciate it more now, what they were trying to do. And you can see them try to do it again in Halo 5, and that also didn't work. But he's a great character, and he's huge now, and I love the voice actor. I've always loved Keith David. I loved Arbiter's story arc in terms of where he goes. He was, when you actually break it down, he was probably way more interested and had a proper more arc than Chief maybe did, in terms of where he was at the beginning of the game to where he ends up at the end, and then where he goes from there is kind of huge in terms of like, I suppose we'll get into it eventually, but like in where he goes is awesome.
Yeah. It's interesting though, our protagonist for the majority of the games is Chief, and I don't think we'll ever say Chief is really our favorite character. He's our favorite being, but like on a game-to-game basis, you're just kind of playing as Chief, and he has a couple one-liners here and there. He's not as interesting.
They flesh
as the
him
other
out
characters.
later in the later games, though.
Yeah, maybe we'll get there, but
like Halo 4 is his game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that now. So.
I do want to mention Miranda Keyes. I think it's very cool that they wrote her in as the daughter of Captain Keyes, and she does what he didn't do, which I think is great. They both kind of chase after the Covenant. They both find a Halo, but she was the one that actually was able to stop the firing. Well, I mean, I guess they kind of did, but Captain Keyes didn't follow it all the way through, right? He got caught along the way, but she was able to help stop it, and I think they did a good job with her. I like her voice actor.
Same, I liked her a lot.
Yeah. Julie Benz, I think, I believe is her name. She's in some other more recent sci-fi stuff too.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's kind of the major categories, I guess. From what are the other highlights? We talked about, if you've been listening, we've been talking nonstop about what we've been doing in the game, but are there any like major highlights that you want to just touch on right here? Maybe just one or two that really
Scarab fight.
Capture the essence for you of Halo 2, David?
Yeah, the Scarab fight when you're in those two missions in Metropolis and the outskirts.
That makes sense.
That was huge. I love that. That was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And just the size of the Scarab boarding it, fighting the crew, and I love that. I've always loved that gameplay sequence. I thought it was awesome. That was one of the stand-up moments. I think Halo 2, I just think the Scarab fight,
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, that makes sense. Krista, do you have one or two that you want to mention?
I think first, discovering this next Halo and kind of learning that there are more Halos was pretty crazy. And also High Charity. Just High Charity in general was pretty insane.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, the implementation of the brutes, even though I don't really like playing them, but that adds a lot more depth and more another layer of gameplay. Again, if you're not paying attention to the story, you need the variety that they add, and so I think just the fact that they're there and they're switching it up, and you're not just shooting grunts and elites the entire time. And there's other enemies to talk about too, but I think they do a good job of entering them into the fray. Again, if you're playing in the order of release, the new enemy and the fact that they're so important too is interesting for me. I kind of want to rank the games now. We played the 3. Just a quick don't think about it. Go 1, 2, 3. David, what's your order right now?
Maybe. God damn, I don't know. CE2 Reach.
Okay, Krista.
Just without thinking about it.
2 Reach CE.
I think mine is. I think mine's the same. 2 Reach CE. Weird. David, what were you
Stop
again?
copying me.
CE
first.
Then 2, then Reach. But 2 and Reach, I don't know, man. It's been. I don't know.
We've played them
so
so
many
far
things I
apart now. I wanted to say 2, 1, then CE, then Reach, but I think I did at the end of the day end up liking Reach a little better than CE. So hopefully this has been a good series for you guys. We're going to continue doing this throughout the entire franchise, all the mainline games, and then we'll see what happens with the new game whenever that comes out. Maybe we'll keep going with some of the other RTS games and what are the Spartan Strikes of the world. We'll probably talk about those eventually too. there are, for you to check out, there's the making of Halo 2 that came out. It's on YouTube. You can check that out. That came out back in 2004 as a disc with the game. That's got a lot of interesting insight about kind of what Bungie was going through at the time. They created CE and they really needed to blow out. They had so much more in mind, and they wanted to make that next step for Halo 2. And Halo 2 was a huge deal. It was like one of the biggest video game releases of all time at the time. So it's interesting to go back and look at that and how they made the game. There's lots of discussions with Joseph Staten and Marty O'Donnell and the other team members, and kind of get a little behind the scenes action, and then also talks about kind of all the stress that went through with actually getting it out the door. One of the big interesting things too is they highlight the E3 demo. I think it was from 2003, and kind of everything that went into that. They recently played the Halo 3 demo, or the E3 demo, on the Halo social stream, so go check that out. It's kind of cool for you to see. I think it's Sketch and Frankie go and play through that and kind of try to break it and try to experience what that was like at the time and kind of put everything into perspective. There's a couple of interesting, lore drops and some conversation pieces. I think the Arbiter, man, there was a different name for the Arbiter at one point. Dervish, I think, is the name for Arbiter.
Oh, really?
Originally, like a whirling dervish, I believe, but they had to change it for some reason. So go check that out. It's like an hour and a half. You can kind of just have it on the background, but it's kind of cool to check out. Did either of you guys check out those things? I know there's the remastering video we've probably all watched.
That's the only one I watched. Now.
Okay. What did
I call it the bits of the social stream when they were replaying the old that demo.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the remastering one? Because the original making of Halo 2 was there's a different tone to it. It's more about them, wanting to blow it out, and then kind of the scramble to get it out the door, and the kind of the relief and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the remaster, what's called Remaking the Legend, is about just like it's heaping praise on the game because it deserves it, but then they also needed to be careful with what they were doing, and they were trying to enhance it for the anniversary.
I think there was probably way more pressure with what they were doing now than back then, and I say that just not because Halo 2 wasn't a big deal, but they were doing 4 games this time,
right?
And we all know what happened with that release, but like it was so ambitious, it was so huge, mm-hmm. and it was just crazy, and I feel like they pulled it off. If you've listened to the show and you know who I am, you always know I'm a MCC apologist, I guess, for lack of a better term. I loved MCC when it came out. I didn't care about the multiplayer at the time. Obviously it's a big deal now, but I loved the campaigns, I loved the remasters, I loved the playlists, do you know what I mean? All the Chivos, oh my god, all the Chivos. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I'm still now super happy with MCC, and I'm glad it's gotten better. I'm glad they created that team to come back and to try and fix it and do things better. We're getting regular updates. It's huge, and I'm so happy about that.
Well, and I don't know how, I'm sure they figured it out in the moment, but the Master Chief Collection came out a year before Halo 5. So 343, I'm sure there are different teams and all that sort of stuff, but they essentially were working on both those games at the same time, both releases, among other things. So there was a lot going on for them. They've been working pretty hard, and now we're kind of in that lull space. Right now it's 2018, almost 2019. A little bit of a lull right now. We're looking forward to the next release, but they were cramming in a lot of work at that time.
And ultimately, Halo 2 anniversary is amazing. So,
yeah, the anniversary, like the package of Halo 2 anniversary, is great. It's better. It's better than the first game, like in my opinion. I mean, they did a great job of enhancing it with the blur cutscenes and
that's amazing.
All the HD enhancements, all that stuff. Krista, any thoughts on the 2 games, maybe on the original and the remake?
Honestly, they did a really good job at keeping just Halo 2 still feels like Halo 2, even though it's like super fancy now. Also, you were going back and talking about CE a little bit in that remaster. I'm not sure CE would have benefited as much from blur cutscenes as Halo 2 does, because CE doesn't have as much facial features or anything like that. The cutscenes are way more simple, while Halo 2's, even when Halo 2 first came out, the cutscenes were still super cinematic and really, really innovative and different for the time that it came out. So...
Yeah, I mentioned Joseph Staten before. His title was, I think, writer and then director of cinematics. Like, they gave him that title because that was such a big part of the game.
Yeah. They did, like, there's tons of cinematics in Halo 2. I mean, every single mission has at least 2, if not 3. So, it definitely benefited a lot from the blur cutscenes and just kind of making it even more movie-like than it was before. Because if you go back and you watch the original cutscenes and the blur cutscenes side to side, they changed the pacing up a little bit just to make it more cinematic and immersive and more dramatic. Like, the blur cutscenes add so much drama to a very dramatic game.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, so definitely go check out those resources. There's just a lot on Halo 2, a lot around this timeline. So that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. You know, you're obviously listening to a lore podcast, so there's other things to check out. I think I mentioned some of these on the front end of this series. But there's I Love Bees, which is kind of lore, not really lore, but it's interesting. There's Conversations from the Universe, and that was actually packed in along with this making of Halo 2 disc with the limited edition. Of that release, and that's just a deeper dive into things that were going on, some interesting tidbits that they wanted to include. There's some 343 Guilty Spark has some things to say in there. I think there's a conversation with Master Chief at one point. So there's like, I don't know, a handful, maybe 10, just different dialogues to go check out. Have you guys read those at all, or are you recalling that piece?
I think I think I have looked at it at some point, but it's been a while.
They're just like little snippets, you know, something that you would read. Like today, it would have been like a little text log that you would find. They would have just kind of popped up there. Just adds a little more depth, I guess, to the game that's already very deep. Already has a lot. So on a comic standpoint, we've talked about Halo the graphic novel, so that plays into this Halo 2 timeline quite a bit. It was written after Halo 2, so it also kind of plays in a little bit to Halo 3. Halo Uprising, I've already mentioned that. That's what takes place on the 2 weeks that Master Chief is hanging out on the Dreadnought, but it also has a big element of things that are going on Earth. And then books to read, Halo First Strike and Halo Ghost of Onyx would be kind of help bring you forward in the universe. There's also soundtracks. Halo Spartan Strike, if you guys have played that. It's like a twin stick shooter that you can play on Windows. It has the very beginning of that game takes place during Halo 2 in New Mombasa, which is interesting. Did you guys remember that?
Oh gosh.
No.
Spartan Strike was interesting.
Is it Strike or Assault? Which one came to console?
Both.
That's the only one I played.
Oh,
no,
Assault.
only one
Assault
of them
came
did.
to console.
Yeah.
I think Strike is only on Windows.
Oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah, so there's 2 twin stick shooter games that they've released. Spartan Strike is the second one, and the first little chunk there, you're in New Mombasa and you're chasing down the Conduit, which is some mysterious Forerunner artifact, and they actually show the Conduit in one of the terminals. I'll let you figure that out if you really want to, but you can see it in, like, they did draw that connection between the two games. I think that is about it. Other than that, feel free to email us or whatever if you have questions. Halopedia is a great resource if you're really digging in. Anything else that you guys think that people should check out as we move into Halo 3? We're going to do ODST as we talked about.
We mentioned Human Weakness, which is kind of following Cortana's story, so go ahead and check that out. It is super, super interesting. There's not as much reading material between Halo 2 and Halo 3 than, like, between Halo 3 and Halo 4, which we will get into later. So, go ahead, read those short stories and comics, and be prepared for the big read. The big read is what we'll call it in two games, so like 3 years. We'll be there in 3 years.
Anything else to add, David?
No, the game's amazing. It's great.
Okay, David.
That's it. You guys know there's loads of cool content out there, loads of kind of stuff. We've mentioned a whole ton. I mean, there's lots going on in Halo. That's why we're here. You know.
Absolutely. All right. I think we did a good job there recapping it for you. There is a community question. If you still have that up, David. I did ask.
You did ask a question.
Yeah, I did drop a question in there for the community to weigh in on. So we'll read that quick, and then we will get out of here.
Colin Perkins. As you know, 343 went all out with the remastering of the legendary game as part of the MCC Halo 2 anniversary. In your opinion, what was improved? What was best left alone? Is Halo 2 anniversary better than the original release? It's quite a controversial. So Krista says Blur, as you can imagine. Jesse White says, yeah, Blur is what made the game shine. I mean, the obvious thing is that the cutscenes are absolutely beautiful now. Jesse White also says, and yes, it's better than the original release. It's buttery smooth at 60 FPS and so pretty. Wise Man says, visual nitpicks, marine armor isn't faithful. I know that's Miles. He's trying to stupid Miles. Grave my design and misinterpreted and distorted. I liked it, Miles, but whatever. You're wrong. Iconic musical tracks not adapted like Breaking Benjamin and Incubus using motion capture reduced the action in some shots. And the rest is really good. Much better than CEA. See, this is why I don't want Miles. He's crazy. He doesn't know shit.
Oh my gosh. Be nice, David. Jesus.
Anyway. Halo 2, Justin Taylor says H2A felt like a movie graphically. It hooks you and feels superior to H2 in every way. Bar one thing, the inability to perform Swordfly for so long was frustrating. That being said, I truly love this game. It's absolutely epic. Michael Riffety Bido says, just let Blur animate my life, please. It's pretty funny.
Very nice.
And then over in the Discord, we do have one response. So I'm going to pop that up against too many people posting in Discord and stuff all the time. We have Physical Sky 128 says the only problem I have with H2A is that there are only a handful of multiplayer maps and they couldn't bring back a few of the songs in the campaign. Otherwise, it's a gorgeous game and I absolutely love it. You know, it's interesting the amount of people that comment on the music. I wouldn't have thought it was that big of a deal. But
the music was really cool. I think there was a licensing issue, and that's why a lot of the like bands they hired to be in Halo 2 weren't able to come back.
They did bring back Steve Vai, that guitarist. They did bring him back, so he has some tracks on there. But who was there was another guitarist, I'm forgetting his name right now, he's very famous.
John Mayer.
Yeah, Mayer. Yeah, he's on the original one, but I don't think on the remaster, on the anniversary. All right, we did it.
We got through Halo 2. Halo 2. One of the longer games.
I think the longest game. I don't know. So that'll do it for a recap. On the next episode, we'll be covering the Prepare to Drop cinematic and Mombasa Streets missions of Halo 2 ODST. As I said, we're going to make you wait. We're waiting. We're going to go back and find out what happened after Regret took that slip space jump in the middle of New Mombasa. So send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolve.
Evolved.
Evolved.
Oh my gosh.